Okay, so this is going to be a recorded video on percentages. So hopefully at this point in your life, you're familiar with the symbol for percentage. That symbol actually stands for hundredths. So they give us an example of a ratio that is 30 to 100. That is also the same as saying 30%. So 30 to 100, 30% written as 30 with that percent symbol, which is the same as 30 hundredths, which is written as 0.30. Percentages may be expressed as fractions, decimals, or ratios. So changing a percentage to a decimal. If we are starting with a percentage and you need a decimal, you are simply going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left to signify that that number is now in the hundredths place. And we would add any zeros as necessary. So for example, if we were converting 38% to a decimal, the decimal is understood to be behind the 8. And so we're just going to move that 2 places. So when we move it 1 place, it's behind the 3. We move it the second place, it is now in front of the 3. And then we will add our leading 0. So 0.38 would be 38% expressed as a decimal. Maybe we have a decimal and we need to express this as a percentage. So if we're starting with a decimal and we want to express it as a percentage, we are just going to move that decimal point 2 places to the right to signify that it is now in the hundredths position. And again, we'll add any zeros as necessary. So if we're asked to convert 0.22 to a percentage, this is the same as saying 0.22 times 100. So that forces us to move that decimal point so that 0.22 becomes 22. So 0.22 expressed as a percentage is 22%. So we're given a knowledge check activity here that says, how is 0.09 expressed as a percentage? So which way are we moving that decimal to express this as a percentage? Hopefully you said 2 places to the right and you determined that it would be expressed as 9%. Changing percentages to fractions. Convert the percentage to a decimal and then to a fraction. So another way is to put the percent over 100. So if you did not already know, percentages are understood to be fractions expressed over 100. So if I need to change 30% to a fraction, it becomes 30 over 100. And then I can reduce that number as low as it goes. 30 and 100 are both divisible by 10, and that is how we reduce down to 3/10. Changing a fraction to a percentage. So for this, you're going to convert the fraction to a decimal and then convert the decimal to a percentage by multiplying 100 and adding a percent sign. So if I were to give you an example such as 3/5 and ask you to convert that to a percent, we can simply take 3, divide it by 5, and multiply by 100. Some of you might be using your telephone for these calculations. Some of the phones I have noticed when you plug these numbers in, you may have to hit the equal sign in between your division and your multiplication. So if your phone does not readily give you 60, when you type in 3, hit the divide key, 5, hit the multiply key, type in 100 and hit equals, it should give you 60. If it does not, then you are going to have to type 3 divided by 5 equals times 100 to get to the 60%. So it's just a matter of some phones require you to hit equals after the division. Some of them do not. So it's a matter of how your phone is set up. So to determine the percentage of a given number, we're first going to convert that percentage to a decimal or fraction, and then multiply the decimal or fraction by the number. So they give us an example here of what percent of 10 ounces is 3 ounces. So they took 10%, converted that to a decimal, which can also be expressed as a fraction, 1/10, and then multiplied it to determine what percent the 3 ounces was of the 10 ounces. So now we have an equation much like the ratio of proportions where we can cross multiply and solve for x. So we get 1 times 3 is 3. 10 times x is 10x, which means that 3 needs to be divided by 10. So x equals 3/10, which can also be expressed as a decimal as 0.30 or as a percentage as 30%. And I hope that helped you out with calculating percentages.